We will now go straight to the solutions with three very inspirational panelists. Please join me, Sandrine, Alain-Richard, and Elena. You can come on the stage. With the jingle. Welcome on the stage of ChangeNOW. Sandrine Sommer, you are the Chief Sustainability Officer at Moët Hennessy, which is within the luxury group LVMH, the direction of 27 houses worldwide for wine and spirits. And you started the program Living Soils, Living Together. Welcome, Sandrine. Alain-Richard Donwahi, welcome. You're the former Minister of Water and Forests in Côte d'Ivoire and environmental advocate and President of the United Nations COP15 against desertification. Welcome, Monsieur Donwahi. Elena Doms, welcome as well. You're the founder of the company Earth Plus. Earth Plus is a pioneer to restore degraded soils and combat desertification worldwide through, we would say, innovative regenerative agriculture. Is that correct?
Through combining different industries and combining agriculture and construction.
And construction. Thank you to all of you. But I would like to start with a question, Mr. Donwahi, because we heard Philippe talking about the farmers and talking about how difficult it is also to address decision makers. As the first president of a COP against desertification, you are the first president of a COP against desertification to put the soil degradation at the very top of the international political agenda. And since Abidjan in 2022, you were on a mission. How difficult was it to have this mission and to gather all the positive energy and to transform it into concrete change? How was this mission?
This mission is very difficult. At the beginning, I thought I was on vacation because I travel a lot around the world, and I found it very tiring today to travel so much. It was difficult because, first of all, our COP was not very well known, Desertification COP. We have 3 COPs in the world, Climate COP, Biodiversity COP, and Desertification. When I was Minister of Water and Forest, I didn't know about the Desertification COP. I would participate every year to the Climate COP, but I didn't even know there was a Desertification COP. When I became president of that COP, I realized that soil degradation, land degradation, is at the core of the problem of climate change and the core of the problem of biodiversity loss. So the most important thing was to talk to to be an advocate to the political world, so the leaders understand what is important. It's not important to have big meetings only. It's not important to talk about the problem. It's important to really go to the core of the problem and make things change. That is the most difficult thing. And I've been traveling a lot, and what I noticed is that there is the will. There's a will to change. There's a will. That's no problem. There's a will. Big declaration, there's a will. There's money to make things change. But do we want to put the money where we need to put it? That's the problem.
Would you say that the decision makers, the leaders you're talking about, are aware that living soils is a non-renewable resource?
Yeah, they know about it. No trouble. I was in a meeting not long ago about security. I've been Minister of Defense also before, about security. Food security, but security and jihadism, around the world. And when I was in the defense and military world, I've seen how easy it is when we have a problem to find the money to buy weapons, to go to war. It's easy. It's quick. And you will notice that in Europe, with the Ukraine war. In 1 week, it was easy to find 100 billion euros to cope with that problem. And when we talk about environment, when we talk about degraded land, we're striving to find the resources. So we have the resources, but do we want to put it where it's needed? I think it's a question also of sensitization of the population. The communities are the ones who can make things change. In the population, the youth are the people who can make things change. Because the youth, I found the youth very interested in the environment problems, soil degradation, land degradation. And they know what to do. But sometimes they are not at the right place. So we'll try for the next COP16 in Saudi Arabia, to have the youth being part of the decision that are taken at that COP. It's very, very, very important.
And what do you use as a COP15 president to convince leaders to put money on this topic?
Well, it's not very difficult to convince them. But it's difficult to have the mechanism, to have the money go to the communities. You know, that's why I try to have the private sector more involved in it. Because usually the public sector is slow, very slow, and not adapted to fast solutions, to fast financing and fast solutions. So the private sector is more adapted, and the private sector is also interested in finding solutions. Because in farming, it's the private sector. You know, in the economy, the private sector is really affected by climate change, by soil degradation, and biodiversity loss. So we need to have these people more interested. And in Côte d'Ivoire, for example, we did something very interesting. We find it interesting to have the private sector investing in reforestation, investing in land protection. As long as it's in investment, then they understand. You know, it's easier to make them understand.
I would be super curious to know, so because you're traveling a lot, you said.
Yeah.
What is the trend right now about regenerative agriculture? You know, what is the trend worldwide? Yeah. I mean, we're talking about crop rotation, about covering the soil. Do you see regenerative agriculture a lot when you're traveling around? Is it?
Yeah, there's a change. There's some countries around the world, around the globe, who are doing so. But I'd be interesting to listen to the other speakers. But there's some countries who have understood that it's more efficient to use. In fact, it's traditional habits that needs to be put back into the current uses in agriculture, for example. In Cuba, they use it. In Australia, they do it. In Kenya also, and in Senegal. You know, there's a lot of projects like the Great Green Wall project in Africa, where the communities are using regenerative techniques to farm and have good yields, you know, and protecting the soil at the same time.
So we definitely need to connect all these solutions, all these projects, and this is part of what you're doing, Sandrine Sommer, at Moët Hennessy, overseeing 27 worldwide maisons or houses of wines and spirits. In 2020, you structured a sustainability program called Living Soils, Living Together. So we are at this connecting together. This was around 4 commitments. Can you tell us a bit more about how it works within the maisons of Moët Hennessy right now?
Yeah, sure. First of all, you know, the private sector is very interested in this topic. I confirm, Mr. Donwahi. So at Moët Hennessy, we have 27 maisons. We are selling champagne, cognac, still wine, and sparkling wine all over the world. Yes. You know, and the common thing, we are deeply connected with soils, with nature. All our products are coming from there. So it's very important, and it's the reason why we have developed this program, Living Soils, Living Together. And the first pillar of this program is how to regenerate soils everywhere. of course, in our own vineyard, but much beyond. So what we are concretely doing, first of all, we have been working on this subject for a long time. It's not new. And the first thing was to decrease drastically our environmental impact and decrease the quantity of input because this is very important, you know, and on our own vineyard, we are now 100% herbicide-free. And we really want to, of course, convince and involve our wine growers, our partners, to do the same. So it was the first step, very important step. And you can imagine it's not so easy to change the system like that. So we need time. And we have decided to go further and not only to decrease our environmental impact, but regenerate, of course, nurture the soils. And this is the reason why we switch to, time after time, into regenerative agriculture with 3 practices, concrete practices: cover cropping, you mentioned it, very important to always cover the soils and to have no naked soils. Very important to be sure, you know, you can again nurture the soil. So this is the first practices we implement all over the world. The second practices is agroforestry. So it means we plant some hedges, some trees around our area and within cross the terroirs, and particularly in Champagne or in Charente for our cognac maison. We are testing these new practices. And the third practices is eco-grazing. So using ships for the herb. You know, very important, of course, to reintroduce fauna and flora and push biodiversity within our vineyard and again around. And you mentioned reforestation. We are investing in reforestation as well. And we imagine pocket forests when we can. We imagine biodiversity islet around our terroirs. And we are investing as well in forest reforestation all over the world, in Africa, in the US, or in China, with our different maisons.
And it's huge when you think about how big Moët Hennessy is, what you can put in movement as well. You told me when we were preparing this session that, of course, each one of the 27 maisons had a program already, but you brought them together. How did they react when you set these very ambitious goals? How did they react?
I think, you know, again, all our maisons have been working for a long time on this subject. It's not new, and you know, to create this program and to be sure to give the right ambition, challenge ambition, because we want to be 100% in regenerative agriculture by 2030. Not so far, 2030, very close to us. So. Of course, we have to switch to accelerate, and it's not so easy, but we keep, of course, the way. And all our maisons were very happy, you know, to have this direction, even if it's, again, very ambitious, but all are very happy to follow this regenerative agriculture. You know, it gives a lot of sense. And I think we have never forget that, again, our program is living together, the human part, very, very important when you are talking about soils. In fact, you are talking about farmers and about, of course, wine growers. Philippe told us just before, very important to keep in mind, this is the precious thing they work with. Mm-hmm. So we have all to be cautious with this precious ecosystem.
Yeah, and you say not so easy, I would say very ambitious, and I like it. Sandrine. We can maybe talk to you, Elena, about your company, Health Plus, which is also very ambitious. Your goal is to work on degraded soil and to build on it to grow construction materials. And you wanted to start in Europe, in Belgium. Why did you choose to start your worldwide work in Belgium? Tell us a bit more about it.
So we work on 2 types of soils. These are the mildly polluted lands and degraded agricultural lands. And Belgium is unfortunately one of the most polluted countries in the world. It also has a lot of degraded agricultural soils. And we started with a project in Belgium, led by my colleague Frederik Verstraete. It was one of the first projects in the world to try to clean forever chemicals from soils with super plants, like industrial hemp. In that project, they proved the impossible, that you can use super plants and they will extract the pollution, even the most difficult ones, and they would store the pollution in the leaves of the plant. Then you can separate the leaves, treat them in a special process to get rid of the pollution, but the stems and the pollen remain completely clean. There were no traces of pollution at all. So those were used to create better construction materials that would actually be cheaper and stock carbon in buildings, turning construction from a huge carbon emitter into a huge carbon sink. And after that pilot, we thought, well, what else can we help fix with that business model? Turns out that we can clean mildly contaminated areas, but we can also work on degraded lands. And if we work with farmers, if they plant our crops as rotation crops, they will restore their soils and have larger main yields by 5 to 15% at least. And then we can take the biomass and make better construction materials at the same time. And we thought it was an amazing business model. That's why we started in Belgium. We are scaling now in Europe, but also in Africa in the upcoming months. And there we believe we can really work with local communities, make everybody better. Help restore the lands, help build better or make local materials that are really important, and also elevate the local populations. This way we can really truly create a win-win-win for everybody and not wait for the policy, but have a business model that drives restoration at the same time.
You're working on how many hectares right now?
So for this year, we have over 10,000 hectares upcoming.
Wow, this is huge. This is huge. And so you of course, growing construction materials and not food because you're working mostly on polluted soil, right? This is the reason?
So the polluted soils are one type of solution, and they need to be treated differently.
Yes.
The degraded soils, when they're not contaminated, are other ones, and those are the majority of the soils that we have for this year. They are not polluted, they're just slightly degraded, and we can help bring them back.
Monsieur Donwahi, do you think this solution Elena is telling us about, this solution with Earth Plus, could help us to push back desertification?
Yes, I already asked Elena to come to Côte d'Ivoire, so we can have...
Great.
Yeah, you can try this over there, yeah. I think it can work. And it's solutions that can make the communities really more efficient in agriculture, of course, but also more resilient in the community. Because in the rural areas, you have a lot of displacement of populations with degraded land, you see. So it could help fix the population on the ground in the rural areas. So it's very interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Donwahi. We need supportive people like you.
So this is the discussion you're having here?
Yeah. And we'll have this discussion afterwards.
Great. This is
to make
change.
sure we can put it on the ground. Yeah.
Change happening at ChangeNOW, on stage. This is great. How would it look like, Elena, in Côte d'Ivoire? How could it look like in Côte d'Ivoire, your solution with Earth Plus? Give us a picture of it.
Of course. So every time it depends on the local population and what is most needed and on the type of soils. So we'll for sure look which soils are there, see what are the best plants to grow and what are the solutions that we can implement. Whether it will be construction materials, can be a combination of construction materials and food. Because, for example, with plants like hemp, you can use the stems for the construction materials, but you can use the flowers and the seeds for very nutritious hemp oil. It's called a superfood by the UN. So you can combine solutions, but you can also make, for example, pellets for cooking. And there is a lot of problems when a lot of global population is still using wood for cooking. Now we don't need to cut trees, and we can create the local economy and save the trees where they are to regulate the climate. So it will always depend, and we will analyze the state and the lands available in Côte d'Ivoire or in other countries in Africa and come up with the best solution that makes everybody win.
Great. And do you own this lands, or I mean, who's owning the soil you're growing on in this case?
It absolutely depends on the setup. It
Okay.
can be local farmers, it can be companies. So it really depends.
Right. Cool. And connecting people together, Sandrine, Sommer, it's also what you're doing because besides what you're doing within the 27 maisons of Moët Hennessy, you also created a forum, the World Living Soils Forum, 2 years ago, and the second edition is going to take place this October in Arles, in southern France. Whom would you like to reach with this forum? The decision makers, your competitors, the farmers? Who's the public? Who's the audience?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, very important, to gather everybody, as I mentioned before, and we all know that it's not an easy subject, and we have to use collective intelligence to go further. So this is the reason why we created this forum dedicated on soil regeneration, 2 days, 30 hours of discussion, and we invite all the stakeholders around soils, as you mentioned, so NGOs, farmers for sure, wine growers, companies, institutions, and students, solutions, and the next edition will be co-organized by ChangeNOW.
Yes.
Very important with ChangeNOW. Very important, of course, to bring some solutions, some startup to innovate on this subject and to work all together and to share the state of art regarding soils, regarding soil health, to be sure we adapt our measurement. We choose the same type of measure for the soil health. And very important, again, to gather the different communities all along the value chain. And you mentioned competitors. For sure, we are working with our competitors because, again, the soil is a common ground, so very important to work together. And yesterday, for example, Pernod Ricard was exactly at the same place to explain what do they want. And very important, again, to work together. Very important, of course, because we have the same partners, the same wine growers we are working with. So, of course, we have to go in the same direction and to help everybody to go in the same direction. And again, as you mentioned as well, we have to use our leadership, to lead the way on this subject, and again, to be sure to gather all the people who are very touched with the soils.
So I guess you're all invited in October for the World Living Soils Forum, is that correct? October?
Yes, yeah? And definitely, just before this session, we talk together, and you can be sure that I hope you will be there, Elena and Alain-Richard, you will be there for the next edition in October. So it's in the south of France.
I missed the first one. I will definitely be there for the second one.
You will be there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it happening on a farm? Taking place on a farm? I didn't ask you before.
No, it's not. It will be so in Luma Foundation, so
okay.
Not far from
soil.
From soils, but it's a good point. We really want to focus on what we call case study, the reality, the whale soil. So this is the reason why we have decided during the next edition to have focus on specific terroir.
Yes.
We love to speak about terroir with wine and spirit, and we will have a focus, for example, from Provence, and the rosé de Provence, and the farmer from Provence, and they all will come and talk together, but again with the different stakeholders, private sector for sure, but as well public sector, citizens, students, solution,